Shalom, shalom. What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? Shalom. I know y'all see the title, right? Um, as we live life in the last days. I got it from that what's that Mace song, right? But it's applicable to what we see what's going on, right? Because there's so much distractions out there, and so a lot of times we don't, we're not focusing on what's really going on, and so because it's a lot of stuff that's happening that that's being drowned out, whether it's through the news and the media or just our everyday, life struggles that we personally go through. So, but we're not. So we got to be circumvent and pay attention to what's really going on out here, right? And so yeah, so we gotta, always, have a keen eye on what's going on in the world, right? Because like I said, we're any day now. We're at the crest of World War III, right? And I know a lot of people don't like, some of our people don't like talking about this topic because it seems grim, depressing, right, and whatnot. So, but you gotta understand that is directly tied into our liberation as a people, right? And I know even a bunch of us don't even feel like we need to be liberated, which is crazy, right? We've been kidnapped 500 years ago. We didn't come over here because we wanted to. Somebody stole us and brought us over here. And after they stole us, the people that they stole, they had children, and those children had children, children. So that trickled down to us. So we originally never came over here because we wanted to. So the fact that we're still here is off of a crime, right? And then since we've been here, they passed legislations and did certain things to make our life here a living hell, right? Full of oppression and discrimination, right? Even though we might have a handful of people that's doing well, but as it's been shown to us that even if they are doing well, they can't still beat the system. And we know this because look at, i.e., people like Kanye West, right? I know people might have their own opinion about Kanye West, but this man at one point in time was a billionaire. Then he said some things people didn't like, and then they took a lot of his money away. They was giving him a hard time, right? They can do that to anybody. If they can do that to him, who were at one point in time the richest black man ever in America, they can do that to anybody, right? So we gotta, keep that in mind, you know, when it comes to this oppression and stuff that we're facing, right? So without further ado, because I will go on a rant about how messed up this place is. Without further ado, I want to say, call Allah Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, right? That is all praises to the Most High God and His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, right? So, give all praises before we start. Um, we're going to start this off with the book of Joel. We're going to get a little glimpse, just a synapse or a summary of this World War III. A lot of these chapters we covered already, but we're just going to go right back through it because like I said, because we have to have an understanding of what's going on. That way, when that day comes, because it's coming soon, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff that happened. So it's coming soon. So we don't want to be running around here like a chicken with our heads cut off, right? Because it just take a few things to happen. Because like if America and Iran get into it over this Israeli thing, and Hamas, that's World War III. If America and China get into it over the China and Taiwan situation, that's World War III. If America and Russia, you know, they already into it because America is basically fighting a proxy war, because they're funding Ukraine. But if they get boots on the ground, soldiers in the air, soldiers on the ground. That's World War Three, right? So it can unfold any type of which way, right? So we got to keep our eyes open for these certain things, right? So I'm let's start off right. We're gonna let's start off with Jeremiah 51 22 real quick, right? Just really quick. Yes. And it says Jeremiah 50 and 22, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction, right? So that's what's going on here. A sound of battle is in the land, meaning all these nations is gearing up for war. You know, Iran is talking spicy to to Israel. Israel is talking spicy to the Arab world. You know, basically telling them, should y'all don't want this smoke, right? So it's a lot going on. Then America is talking tough. With Iran and China, right? So it's a lot of stuff going on, right? So it's a sound of battle in the land, right? So let's get Joel 3 and just start at 9 real quick. Joel 3 and 9, and it says, proclaim this among the Gentiles. The Gentiles is, in this context, talking about these other nations. Prepare this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty man, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat their plowshares into swords, and their pruning hooks into spears. Right? So what is this talking about? It's talking about all these manufacturing companies start producing weapons of destruction, start producing weapons, start producing ammo, ammunition, all that stuff. Uh, start getting ready for war, right? So that's what it says. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So that's what a lot of these Arab countries, saying they know if they know one on one they can't go against America. But if they gain up together along with their other allies, they know that they can handle America. And number one is Bible prophecy that is gonna happen. But chiefly they know they can get down. So that's why it says, "Let the weak say, I am strong." Right, and that's what they're doing. That's why a lot of these Arab countries, especially Iran, is they talking spicy. Talking about they willing to take out America's navies that's over there in the Middle East right now. If America make a move, so they basically saying if America jump in like that, then it's on. Then so and vice versa. And they already, since this stuff happened, they already attacked several military bases of America over there, right? So I mean, it's on and popping, right? So then it says, assemble yourself. It says, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourself together around about hither, because thy mighty ones come down, O Lord, O Yahweh, right? So it's basically saying all you nations gather together, right? Come together. It's wartime. And that's what we're seeing, right? And this is a biblical prophecy about how this stuff is going to play out, right? So we see this. These are the things that's happening, right? Because when you turn on the news, we see all these nations is getting geared up for war, right? They ready, and they down for the crown, how they say, right? So let's jump to Revelation, right? Because we're gonna, like I said, just a brief summary. We ain't gonna go too detailed, but we're gonna, keep it brief, right? And so now this is a Revelation 17. It says, and there one and there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. So who's this great whore that sit upon many waters? This is talking about America. And what are the many waters? It's talking about these different nations that America you know, resides over and that America controls, whether it's through economics, military might, you know, food, natural resources, or whatever, right? So America sits upon many waters, you know, and we wonder why America is way over here and they're telling people what to do way over there, right? Because America sits on many waters, right? So, like, hold on, really quick, really quick. I don't know why this always be like this. Hold on, let me just do this really fast. So, but yeah, so we understand that America sits on many waters. That is that horror, right? That is that what it says again. It says I will show unto hold on. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great horde. So what is the judgment? The judgment is this World War III that's about to take place, right? Where all these nations is going to come together and eventually they're going to attack America. It's going to start off with them fighting each other, but then in the midst of them fighting each other, a lot of those countries that's allied with America is going to say, "Hey, I think we're on the losing side. Just attack America." Right? And you read about that in what's that Obadiah, and we're going to read about it here, shortly. So um yeah, so we know, like I said, so we know how well, hold on one second, y'all. Just trying to set this up really quick. But yeah, we know, you know, that what this prophecy is talking about. It's talking about America, right? And so just hold on one second. Boom, boom, boom. So it says, and there should come one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talk with me, saying, come hither. And what is the seven vials? The seven vials is the containers, in a metaphorical way of speaking, these containers that control that has the judgment of America, not just America, but the world, contained in them. So as these seven vials is being opened, judgment is being passed on the world, right? So that is what is being spoken of right here, right? So it says, come one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talk with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show thee the judgment of the great whore, right? With whom the kings of the earth had committed fornication, and uh, the inhabitants of the earth have made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So what is this talking about? This is talking about this is talking about um, America's philosophies being pushed on these different nations and how they're forced to, and how America indoctrinate these different countries into following their ways, their ideology, right? And that's what it's speaking of. So when it's talking about, so it's not talking about physical wine or nothing like that. It's talking about, because oftentimes when the Bible mentions wine, it's talking about philosophies and ideologies, right? So when it says, with whom the kings of this earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And so that's what Americans do. It goes around pushing their agenda on all these different nations, forcing them to take it, and if they don't accept it, then they either bomb them or destabilize their government, their country, whenever they don't want to go along with the get along. And that's what they do, right? And it says, so he carried me away in the spirit in the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So this is talking about the EU, and that woman is America, because America is the spearhead of the EU and NATO, right? That we see that sits upon all these different nations, you know, and just so happened that the United Nations, they have their meetings here in New York, right? So that's what it's talking about here. So it's like now that we're, because when John wrote this, he didn't have the understanding that that we have now. Because now that we're living in the times that we're living in, we can see these things, right? Like it says here. Let me get this real quick. This is Daniel. Let me see, where is that? Where is that? So this is Daniel 12:4, right? So it says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words, and seal the book, even to the time of the end." So this book has been sealed. That's why it's so it's so for so many years it's been hard for people to understand it, because this book has been sealed for many years. You know, blocking people understanding of this book, right? So we're living in a time where it says the information is, you know, information is abundant, and so we can, so the Bible is opening up the understanding to a lot of our people, so we can see what's going on in these last times, in these last days, right? So it says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." Right? So we're in that time where knowledge is increasing, right? So we can see how knowledge is just flowing and it increasing, right? Abundantly. So there's no misunderstanding, so now we have the breakdown. We can go into this thing and understand clearly what it's trying to tell us, right? So and so that's what we're what we don't that's how we get this understanding, right? Hold on 1 second, I'm still trying to do this thing. A lot of files on here that I gotta fix and stuff, right? So let's hold on 1 second. That is. But yeah, so then it says, I'm gonna keep reading. So I'm gonna get back to Revelation though, and we're gonna catch the precepts a little later. Trying to wait for this thing to finish doing what it's supposed to do. So it says, but we can grab this. Matter of fact, let's grab we can grab Jeremiah real quick. Jeremiah 18:16 while we wait. So this is Jeremiah 18:6. It says, "O Israel, cannot do cannot uh, O Israel, cannot I do with you as a potter? Said Yahweh, behold, as the clay is in the potter's hand, so are ye in mine, O house of Israel. So this is saying that God does what he wants. He can take something and mold it and fold it and bend it and create it to do whatever he wants it to do, right? So, like I said, so that's what he's going to do with this nation, and that's what he has been doing with this nation. He created this nation to do exactly what it has been doing for the last 500 years, right? And because it's all part of judgment, it's all part of prophecy, all part of what was determined a long time ago, right? Then let's get Habakkuk really quick, right? 2 and 4. Hmm, so really quick. Right, voila. All right, let's do it like this. All right, we on and popping. So let's get Habakkuk 2 and 4. Boom. So Habakkuk 2 and 4 says, "Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him." So, like we just read, how he can take something, whether it's a nation or people or a person, and he does whatever he wants. Like we saw that movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze, Debbie Moore. You know how he's taking how she's molding the vase and creating different type of pottery, right? So that's how God likened us to, like how he creates us with a certain type of spirit to behave a certain type of way. That's why you know some people just is the way they are. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what type of spirit that they got in them, and that's how God created them to be, right? So that's just what it is. So it says, "Behold, his soul was lifted up. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith." So that's these people that run this whole shebang. It says that his soul is not lifted up in him. So he didn't create him to be an upright person. He created these people to be wicked and destructive, just like how they are, right? So let's get Revelation 17 and 18 and jump there real quick. And it says, "And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigned over the kings of the earth." That great city is talking about America, right? That's what reigns over the kings of the earth. Because if America is not cool with whatever you're doing, then it ain't gonna happen. If you try to do it, they're gonna sabotage you, bomb you, turn the whole world against you. That's how they roll, right? So let's get Second Ezra's real quick. Let's get Second Ezra's 11 and 39 real quick. So Second Ezra's 11 and 39 says, art not thou it that remainest of the four beasts whom I have made to reign over my world?" Right? So the fourth beast. So when you get into the book of Daniel, Daniel's talking about these different beasts that he's seen, right? So the fourth beast is of the Roman Empire. And so, and it said, "Aren't you of the fourth beast?" Meaning America is the same exact, how the Roman Empire is. They just a revised Roman Empire. So it says, "Art not thou remainest of the fourth beast, whom I had made reign over who I had made reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them." So the end of the times is going to come through these people. This is how we know where we at in on this timeline, because a lot of we've been hearing about the end of the world and all that stuff most of our lives. But when we couple it with prophecy, we know exactly where we at. America is that last ruling empire before Yahweh Shah comes back to the world, mistakenly called Jesus Christ, right? So it's written again. It says, "Art not thou it that remainest of the fourth beast?" Which is talking about the Roman Empire, aka the revised empire, America, and NATO, whom I had made reign in my world, that the end of their time might come through them. Meaning this, they're going to usher in the end of this whole world with thermonuclear power, because they got all these nations have all these nuclear bombs. You think they're not going to use it? They're going to use it, right? Because these people is just warlike people from conception, So they got all these powerful bombs, and they are going to use it. They don't have it just for show because they think it's cool to have. When friends come over, they want to show off their bomb. No, that's not what they got them for. They got them because they're going to use them, right? So it says, and the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that were past. So this Roman Empire, this American Empire came and it overcame all the other empires that passed. That's how they end up becoming the top hegemony, right? Because they defeated France, they defeated Britain, Spain, Portugal, all that, right? So that's how they became number one nation. So it says the fourth beast came and overcame all the other beasts that were past and had power over the world with great fearfulness and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression. That's how America rules. They rules with wicked oppression. And so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. And that's how they rule, with oppression and deceit. Spread with wicked lies and false promises that they go around with the world. That's why majority of the world think America is still that shining hill on the sea, you know. But when they get here, they realize they got to work for the rest of their life, right? So so that's so America comes with that deceitfulness, that false doctrine, that wickedness that they come and propagate around the world and force people to believe it, right? So just get back over here to Revelation 17:3, right? So it says, so he carried me away in the spirit in the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So we already discussed that's America and NATO and the EU, right? Then it says, and the woman was arrayed with purple and scarlet colored and decked with gold and precious stones. So it's talking about the prestigiousness of this country, how people look at this country as being this great, all powerful country, this great, wonderful place to be, that every nation in the whole world want to come over here, you know, and get involved in this American lifestyle, right? So that's why it's describing it as a woman that's just decked out, because a woman is attractive, especially if she dressed nicely, right? So it says, and the woman was arrayed in purple scarlet colors and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations, filthiness, and fornication. So it's talking about her different philosophies, her ways of life, that she propagate among the world, right? And it says, upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Because that's America ways is filthy. You know what I'm saying? The agendas that they like to push, the narratives that they like to propagate is filthy. It's abominations, right? That's why a lot of countries don't, accept it and don't drink the Kool Aid. That's how they end up getting in beef. You know, Look at it like this: all the countries that America is at war with is all the countries that they couldn't control, right? So that's why they had to get rid of Gaddafi. Because Gaddafi wanted to do his own thing, and they couldn't have that. That's why they got beef with Iran because they couldn't have Iran doing their own thing. That's why they took down Saddam Hussein because they couldn't have Saddam Hussein doing his own thing. That's why they got beef with China, but they ain't gonna step to China because China just is as powerful as them. That's why they got beef with Russia, but they're not gonna just directly step to Russia because Russia is just as powerful as them. So they're gonna have to think twice about it, right? Just like how the movie Friday, what Smokey say about Debo? He don't try that stuff with them people around the block. You know what I'm saying? Because whoever those people was around the block, Debo knew that he couldn't do that to them, right? So that's how America is, right? So moving on, then it says, and I saw a woman drunk with blood of the saints and with the blood of many martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. So how's America drunk with the blood of saints? Because it killed our people. You know, it it slaughter our people on a daily basis. Every 28 hours, an unarmed black man is killed by the police. Right? They killed all our civil rights leaders for the most part, or destroyed them in some type of fashion. Lock them up. They slaughtered the Black Panthers, and they create all these different propagandas to slander us, right? We are not even allowed to define our own selves. Whenever we have a type of movement going on, they always come up with the terminologies and define what we're about. They never give us, an opportunity to voice what we actually trying to do, right? And what our stand is, right? So and then so they always have a smear campaign to discredit us, right? So it says, and the angel said unto me, wherefore dost thou marvel? I will let thee, I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and the beast that carry her, which have 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest and not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go unto perdition, and that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of, from the foundation of the earth. Meaning it's going to deceive a lot of our people, and because a lot of our people are going to be in so much, have so much aberration for this place, because they think America, you know, is something that they can, they think this place is going to be here forever, right? And it's not. No civilization ever lasts forever like that, right? Every civilization has a rise and a fall, right? So, and that's what we have to understand. This place is in the beginning stages of its downfall, right? It's it's losing its respect around the world. The dollar is falling. This place is going down, right? So their last step, their last ditch effort is to go to war, right? To regain, because that's how countries make their money. They make their money through war. So when all else fails, when all their trickery is no longer working, when they can't be diplomatic, then the guns is gonna start blazing, right? And so that's just how it goes. So it says, let's read it again. It says, and the angel said unto me, wherefore thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and the beast that carry her, which have 7 heads and 10 horns. Like I said, it's talking about the EU and NATO. The beast that thou sawest was and was not, talking about the Roman Empire, because during that time the Roman Empire was popping. Then it says, then it was not, because then the Roman Empire fell. But then it got revised again through the philosophies and ideologies of America in the NATO and the EU, right? Then it says, and those names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world when they behold the beast that was and was not. So then it says, so let me read it right. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world when they behold the beast that was and was not, and yet is. So It's talking about America because it's saying it is right. Like this Roman Empire, the same Roman Empire you see is here, but then it's gonna go away. Then it's gonna be revised. It's gonna come back. So that's why I said it is and it was, but it was not. Meaning it's here, but then it's not here. Then it's gonna come back. So I mean, it's the old English. I know it's hard to understand, but it's the old English. So then it says, let's get Exodus real quick. You get Exodus 12:28. Then it says, and the children of Israel went away and did as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they, right? And it came to pass, boom, 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 okay, yeah. So it says, and it came to pass, the Lord smote the firstborn in the land of Egypt from the firstborn of Pharaoh and sat on his throne until the firstborn of the captives that was in the dungeons and the firstborn of all the cattle. So it's talking about how God judged ancient Egypt. So then as we see here and we read, it's going into how God's going to judge this new Egypt, which is called America, right? And this time, God is just not going to kill the firstborn. He's going to kill the firstborn, the secondborn, the thirdborn, everyborn, right? So that's why it's important for us to understand this and come back to the law, statutes, and commandments, keeping the faith, so we won't take part in this, right? So it says, and there is the mind which has, and here is the mind which has wisdom. The seven heads are seven mountains, talking about seven nations, right? These different nations, these different city states on which the woman sit, and there are seven kings, five, uh, five are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet, right? So it's talking about all the different empires that came through. So now the one is talking about the Roman Empire, and the one that's not is talking about America. So it says, one is, and the other is not yet come. When he come, he must continue for a short space, right? So that's what happens when America comes. He's going to continue for a short space. Let's get Daniel real quick. Let's get Daniel 2:41. Daniel 2:41. It says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part potter's clay and part iron, the kingdom shall be divided. So it's talking about the EU and the NATO and America. The kingdom is going to be divided, and that's what they have been divided. That's why they don't get along with each other. They're strong because their military is strong. But like I always point out, you have Turkey, which is an Islamic country. You know, uh, then you have all these different, countries, Hungary and all that stuff. Some of them are still dealing with Russia on the low. All this confusion that's going on, they can't really decide on how to handle Russia because they're supposed to be uh, uh, sanctioning them, but some countries is not, honoring the sanctions. So it's a lot of stuff going on. So it says, whereas thou saw the feet and toes part of clay, part iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in the strength of the iron, much as thou sawest the iron mixed with clay. So that iron is talking about the military, because they have a strong military, because collectively they have a powerful military. And through their alliances, they're able to attack any part of the world at any given time, right? So it says, as the feet and the toes were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. So this is what we see. We see how America is divided, whether it's through their politics, racial identity, philosophies, religion, all that stuff. Then all the other counterparts that resides with them that's under their umbrella, they got the same problems going on in their nation, right? So then it says, and whereas thou saw the iron mixed with myrrh and clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of man. So America, England, all these friends, all these countries is nothing but a melting pot, especially America. It's a big giant melting pot, got all these different groups of people living here, right? So that's where the separation comes because a lot of people come here to this nation and they stick to their own people. You know, the Africans come over here, they only deal with Africans. You know what I'm saying? The Chinese people come over here, they only deal with their Chinese people, and so forth and so forth, right? So it says they shall mingle themselves with the seed of man, but they should not cleave to one another. So even though, like, people is here calling themselves Americans because they got their citizenship and all that stuff, but we're not cleaving one to another. We have segregated areas. Like Martin Luther King said back in the 60s that Chicago is one of the most segregated cities, right? So this is so that's what it means where they won't cleave with each other, meaning we're not strong as a nation because we don't all share the same ideas, right? That's what makes us weak. You can divide us through politics, religion, sports, even. So, especially over there in England, so their games over there is based off of their favorite sports team. So, I mean, so it's this division, right? So it says, and in the days of these kings shall the Lord of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So this is how we know we're living in the last kingdom of the earth, because as we go through these prophecies, then it tells you in these days of these kings, the uh, the kings, in these days of the kings, God of heaven shall set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So this talking about when Yahweh shall come back, when Jesus come back, he's going to set up that kingdom that will never be destroyed, right? Then it says, and the kingdom should not be left to other people, meaning when the Israelites take over, we're not going to have to worry about one day that we're not, another nation's going to come behind us and then we're the last one to rule, right? I mean, what I mean by the last one to rule, meaning we're going to be the last, how to say, the first shall be the last, you get it, right? Then, but we're going to last forever. We're going to rule forever, right? So America is the last kingdom when this whole thing gets destroyed. But then after that, when we rise up, we're gonna have the kingdom forever and ever, right? So like it tells you here, Daniel 7:18, it says, but the saints of the Most High, talking about the Israelites, shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and even forever and ever, right? So that's what's gonna happen when we get it. We're gonna have it forever, ever, forever, ever, ever, right? That's what happens when we get it, right? So it says, in the days of these kings, so the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. Meaning, we're not gonna have to worry about somebody taking us out of power because we have a Yahweh Shai. We're gonna be ruling under the power of the King Yahweh Shai, who the world mistakenly calls Jesus. Right? Then it says, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So that's what's going to happen when we get it. We're going to destroy all these other nations. You know, whatever nations is left after World War III and all that stuff, then we're going to have to go to war to take this thing and set order, right? And we're going to get into all that. So, so moving on. So then let's go back to Daniel 19, 7:19, and it says, start at 18 again. But the saints shall take the states of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom for forever, even forever, ever. Then I will know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured and break in pieces and stamp the residue with his feet. So it's talking about the Roman Empire being the fourth beast. And the 10 horns was on his head, and the other which came up, and before whom three fell. Right. So it's talking about fast forwarding into time to the revised empire of Rome, which is America. And who's those three that fell? Britain, Spain, and France. America took them down so they can be the great country, right? So it says, and the 10 horns which was in his head, and the other which came up, and before whom three fell, even that even that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake great things. So this nation had eyes, meaning they had the vision, as our homeboy Project Pat would say. You ain't got the vision. So they had the vision, to see further than what the British Empire saw, the French Empire saw, the Spanish Empire saw. They had the world conquest really on their mind, right? They was on that pinky in the brain thing, right? Trying to take over the world. They had that vision. That's why it says they had eyes. Then it says, and they spake great things, who look was more stout than his fellow, meaning America spoke boldly. They was talking that stuff, you know what I'm saying, and they was very proud. And America is still proud. You talk to the average American, like I said, they think this place is gonna last forever. Nobody can even touch America. When America, when the military tells you that uh, a good 25% of their military is no longer, you know, physically fit. You know what I'm saying? We have a fat military, right? An out of shape military. So and that's what the generals of the army is telling. Recruitment is down by 25%, right? Um, like I said, the military is overweight. These are things that you can look up. It's telling you that America's military is overweight, right? So, but the fact that people still think that they can go out there and bang with these other countries that's do nothing but this been working out for these last uh, decades trying to get their stuff right, because just for they can have that fight against America, like we saw the movie Dark Knight with Batman, right, and Bane, right, one of my favorite Batman movies. So when Bane was fighting Batman, what did he tell him? He like, victory had defeated you, right? What does that mean? Victory has defeated you, meaning America been going around slapping everybody around. They got soft, because without no real competition and all that stuff, you're gonna get soft. Just like if an athlete is not pushing themselves, they're not going against the best competition. After a while, they're gonna play down to their competition. So just like how Vane told Batman that victory has defeated you, that's what America is facing. Victory has defeated America, right? So moving on, let's get back over here. Verse 11 and back in Revelation 17. And the beast that was and was not, and even he has, is the eighth. So it's talking about, and the seven is going to perdition, right? So it's talking about America, and I believe the eighth is Russia. So America is going into perdition, then the eighth, because they all, even though like they might call themselves Russians, whatever type of European names they want to call themselves, they all the same people. So when we're talking about Esau and talking about the beast, we're talking about them collectively, right? Even though God is using them to infight with each other to destroy each other, but ultimately God is going to take them all down, and we read about that in Obadiah, right? And actually, right here too. Then it says, "In the 10 horns which thou sawest, the 10 kings which have received no kingdom yet, but receive power as kings, 1 hour with the beast." So, and how do they do that? Because NATO and the EU, they in cahoots. So even though America is spearheading this thing, you got Germany, that's a powerful, you know, nation within the coalition. France, uh, Britain, and all that stuff. But all the other little nations under that umbrella, they might not share the same in power as America, Germany, France, and all that stuff, and Britain. But since they rolling with them, they got power too, right? So that's what it means by uh, 10 kings which have received no kingdom yet, meaning they're not the top hegemony of this whole thing, but they receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast, meaning they can roll. They, you know, they like I said, they they sharing in the power, right? Because they roll with them, right? These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. And that's what they do. They put all their military power together, all their military might together to strengthen that beast, right? That's why it says that the iron mixed with clay, right? So that iron is talking about the military. So they're strong in that resort, because they had that Article 7 where one fight, we all fight. You know what I'm saying? Or how we say in the hood, if you jump, we all gonna jump. Or one jump, we all jump, right? So they have that in this, and it's called Article 7, right? So then, verse 14, it says, and these make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, and the Lord. So, like I said, this is getting into Armageddon, right? So they're gonna make war with the Lamb, and who's the Lamb? Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus. They when they see him come with the millions, gotta say it like the Rock, in millions of angels, they're gonna try to make war with him, right? Because this is the pride of these people that they've been watching these Hollywood movies when they be having a little sci-fi stuff and be fighting aliens, and they really think they got a fighting chance. So it says they shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For the Lord of Lords, King of Kings, and they that are with him are called the chosen and faithful. And who is with them? The angels, and chiefly the Israelites, right? So let's get Isaiah 66 real quick. Look at Isaiah 66 and 24. Yeah, I don't know how much of this we're gonna get to because it's three other chapters I want to try to cover, but I don't know if we're gonna get to all three. But we're gonna try to get as much as possible, right? So it says, Isaiah 66 and 24 says, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcass. I don't know why I can't talk. The carcass of the men that have transgressed against me, for their worms shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be a horror among unto all flesh. So it's talking about all these nations when they decide to try to fight against Yahweh Shai, they're going to be destroyed. Then it says, and they shall go forth and look upon their carcasses of the men, meaning we're going to see their dead bodies, the ones that just try to think they can actually fight against Jesus. We're going to see their dead bodies. That's why I tell people, especially in this day and age, do not allow your children to go to the military, especially if you call yourself God in the Bible. Because if they be in the military long enough and stuff jump off, they're gonna have to take that order to fight against their Lord and Savior, and and they're gonna have to do it because they're in the army, right? And then we see that it says, and they should go forth and look upon the carcass of men that transgresses against me, for their worms shall die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be a horror among all flesh. Meaning he's going to destroy them. The people are going to be looking at them, looking at these dead bodies, not with pity, but looking at them like these damn fools. Why do they think they can fight against God? Why do they think they can box with God? Right? So this is what we're dealing with. Let's get Matthew 5:17 real quick. And it says, "Think not that I come to destroy the law, but or the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to fulfill." So, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to fulfill these things that is written of. Because a lot of people think that all these prophecies just came and went. Like Jesus died, so now in the Bible, all those prophecies that's written before, it's not going to happen. Because once Jesus died, it's over with now, right? All you got to do is just believe in Jesus. It's cool. That's not what it says. It says, "Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets," right? And because the prophets wrote things. The prophets, this book, 2/3 of this book is filled with what the prophets wrote and the things that's going to happen on this earth. That's why it's important to understand what's going on. That's why the Bible tells you that that the spirit of Christ is prophecy, right? So when you in the spirit of Christ, you understand these prophecies and you want to understand these prophecies, right? So when it says, "Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets, I come not to destroy but to fulfill," meaning all these things that is written is going to come to pass. So we can't say, "Oh, that was a long time ago," or this whatever. No, because we see these things happening, right? As we going through these different things, we can look at the world today and see, yeah, that's what's going on, right? And the law is not done away with, right? It says, "Think not I come to destroy the law." So we still have to keep the law, right? So, like I said, we've been taught that we don't have to keep the law, but like I was explaining to somebody one day, you cannot read this Bible and go through not one, maybe I'll probably say give or take maybe 2 to 3 books. But outside of those 2 or 3 books, you cannot read this Bible and don't find where it's telling you to keep the laws of God. And those 2 or 3 books that I'm thinking of, that's because there are poems in those books. There are prayers that's in those books, right? So that's why like majority of those books, I mean those few books that I'm thinking about don't have the anything about keeping the laws of God, because those books is just basically about prayers and songs and poems and stuff, right? So but outside of that, almost damn near every book, 95% of the books in this Bible you read, you're not gonna be able to go through it and don't see where it tells you to keep the laws of God. So when you go to church, they tell you, "Oh yeah, the laws of God is done away with. All you got to do is keep the faith and blah blah blah." Right? That's not what it says in the Bible. That's not what it says, right? And we reading it. So moving on, and it says back to Revelation. Oh, that's yeah, back to Revelation. Then it says, "And he that told me the waters which thou sawest, the whore sits upon sit there. There are people, multitudes, and nations and tongues." So that's what the water is. When it says that the whore that sits on many waters, it's telling you that it's speaking about nations, right? So let's read it again. He said unto the waters which thou sawest, the whore sit are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. So all these different countries, all these different people that America resides over, right? Let's get Ezekiel 47 real quick. Ezekiel 47 and 8. And it says, then said he unto me, These waters issue out towards the east country and go down into the desert and go into the sea, which being brought forth unto the sea, the waters shall be healed, right? So, like I said, so when we become, back in power and ruler of this world, these waters shall be healed. So let you know it's talking about these nations, and then they're gonna be healed because through the philosophies and stuff we're gonna have to that we're gonna be teaching them, right? So let's get this real quick to further elaborate on that, right? Let's get what I really just want. Let's start at Isaiah. Let's get Isaiah 60, right? And yeah, let's get Isaiah 60. We're gonna read down to about we're gonna read for a little bit to about 14 or something, right? So, cause we gotta understand what that water is, right? So it says, "Arise, arise, shine, for the lights come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon thee." So that light is talking about that wisdom and that knowledge that He's gonna give to us, the Israelites, right? Because the Bible tells you that we're gonna be a light to the Gentiles. And how do you be a light to the Gentiles? By the wisdom and understanding and knowledge that is given to us, right? Um, so that's how you become a light to the Gentiles. Hold on 1 second. So it's like in Deuteronomy, let's get this real quick. Deuteronomy 4 and 6. It says, uh, keep and like I said, this is talking about the commandments. Because we just read that Jesus said he did not do away with the law. So this is Deuteronomy 4 and 6. It says, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding and your in the sight of the nations. So when the nations see us being these wise and understanding and all knowing people, when it comes to certain things, they're gonna look at us like, wow, these are some wise and understanding people, right? And this is how we know that those people over there with the little curly stuff hanging from the side and the little saucer sitting on top of their head, that they're not looked at as a wise and understanding people. They're looked at as genocidal maniacs amongst the world, right? And they're not to mention, I mean, majority of them are atheists. It's only a small percentage of them that actually believe. So, I mean, when you take all of that into consideration, they're not what it says, uh, a wise and understanding people. So let's read it again from the top. Keep therefore and do them, for this is the wisdom, your understanding in the sight of nations, which shall hear these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. So this is how they're supposed to look at us when we keep in the laws of God, these commandments, and not just the 10, but the whole Levitical law. They would say, surely this is a great nation, is wise and understanding people, right? That's how they're going to look at us in that day. So when we get back to Isaiah 60, it says, arise and shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee, right? And who is the thee? Let's see who's the thee is, right? Yeah, we definitely ain't going to get to those other chapters. So, but it's cool though, because it's all through the Spirit, right? Probably pick that up tomorrow for the do that for the Sabbath class. Let's get Romans 9 and 4, right? Because this is Rome. This is the book of Romans. Christians' favorite book in the whole Bible that they like to go to, but they obviously don't understand it or they don't read this at all, right? Because they would like to think that Paul was going around teaching everybody but Israelites, right? But all Paul epistles was written to Israelites that were scattered into other lands. And Paul himself is going to let you know who he's talking to, right? So it's no confusion. So you don't have to take my word for it. We're going to read what our dear brother Paul said, right? This is matter of fact, let's start. This is chapter Romans chapter 9. We're gonna start at the top. So it says, "I say the truth in Christ, I lie not." Meaning Paul is, he's bearing witness. He's speaking his mind. He's telling the truth. I say the truth in Christ, I lie not, for my conscience also bear me witness of the Holy Ghost. Right. So he's talking in the spirit. Right. And I think anybody with a little biblical sophistication will understand that if the Holy Spirit is on you, you can't lie. Right. That I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart, for I wish I could myself be accursed for Christ for my brethren. So he's basically saying he wish he could have went through what Christ went through for his people, right? We're going to see who his people is, because that's what Christ did. He died on the cross for his people, the children of Israel, right? Let's prove that. For my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh. Your kinsmen is people that is of your same nation group, right? Your same ethnicity, your people, according to the flesh. So the church would tell you, oh, well, spiritual Israel. You got spiritual Israel. The Bible don't say spiritual Israel. Look, this little thing I got on the phone is the Bible. I'm pretty sure y'all can't see it because it's looking real bright. You can type in spiritual Israel. I bet you won't find it. This thing right here, if it's in the Bible and you type it in there, it will show you how many times it pops up, right? You will not find the word spiritual Israel. Why? Because no such thing. You will not find a concept of spiritual Israel. Why? Because no such thing, right? So let's read it again. I wish I could. I wish, I wish that I myself accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh. That's clear. Like, speaking of his people of his ethnicity, the Israelites, who are, there's going to be Pacific right here, who are Israelites, right? So just stop right there. Then it says, let's get back over here. Isaiah 60, verse 1. Arise and shine, thy light has come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon thee. Let's get back over here. Who are Israelites who pertain of the adoption. So when the church always talking about people being adopted in, what the word pertain to means to belong, to consist of, right? All those different synonyms you can find for the word belong, right? It says, who are Israelites who pertain of the adoption and the glory. What we just read over here, arise and shine, the light come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen on thee. Back over here, in the glory, in the covenants with an S on the end. So it's talking about the new covenant, old covenant, new covenant, both covenants. In the covenants and the giving of the law, because who was the law given to? When Moses received the law, it was given to the Israelites who were in the desert with Moses, the Israelites, right? So let's read it again. Who are Israelites who pertain of the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of God and the promises. So all of those things belong to the Israelites. There's no such thing as spiritual Israel. We're not reading that because the verse above it says, my kinsmen according to the flesh, right? So we're not reading that here. That's not what Paul is saying, right? And this is the modern day Christians' favorite guy to go to because they think it actually proves their case, but it doesn't, right? Because Paul is being very specific and very direct on who this is talking about and who the gifts of God is for. It says, who are Israelites, who pertain to the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law, and the services of God and the promises, right? That's what it's talking about. So back over here. It says, and behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, meaning the wisdom of this world is going to be stricken. It's not going to, you're not going to, it's not going to, the wisdom of the world is going to be gone. After World War III, when everything is just broken down, society is like in turmoil, everything is looking like the movie Book of Eli, all hazy and cloudy, uh, looking like The Walking Dead. Everything is all deserted and destroyed. You know what I'm saying? Looking like Mad Max in a Thunderdome. Everything is just all jacked up, right? It says, behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, but the Lord shall rise upon thee. Who is the thee? The Israelites, because we just read who all that pertains to. And the glory shall be given upon thee. Who is the thee? Who are Israelites who pertain to adoption and the glory. Right? Then it says, and the Gentiles shall come to thy light. So these other nations are going to have to come and learn from us. Just like how America was made to be that shiny hill on the sea, on the shiny thing on the hill that all the nations want to come to America and be American and live the American dream. It says, and the Gentiles should come to thy light, and the kings to the brightness of thy rising. Meaning they're going to want to come and learn from us because they're going to know that Yahweh is our God and he's with us. And they're going to see that. And they're going to want to come and be a part of that. So just like how people saw America becoming this great empire and they came over here and they wanted to be a part of that, they're going to want to be a part of us. Right? And it says, and the Gentiles should come to thy light, and the shall come to thy light, and the kings to the brightness of thy rising. Right? Let's go to chapter 49 in Isaiah 49 and 6. And it says, and he said, it is the light thing that thou should make my servants to rise up tribes of Jacob and to restore and preserve Israel. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to preserve us. He said it's a light thing for him to do that. When all this hell is breaking loose on the earth, World War III, bombs over Baghdad, dropping everywhere, he says, and he said it is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore and to preserve of Israel. So we don't have to worry about all that craziness when all this stuff is breaking loose. I mean, sure, we can have some ups and downs and all that stuff, but as long as we keep the faith, like it tells you, keep the faith and endure to the end, and the saints shall be saved, right? Because what's going to happen is, it says, and the Gentiles should come to thy light, and the kings of thy brightness of thy rising. So they're gonna want to come to us because we're gonna be the ones that you need to know if you want to get on board. Like we like the lesson we did the other day was explaining how we're gonna be teaching the other nations, and then this one particular nation, the Canaanites, that's not going to be able to learn from us. They're going to be in a perpetual darkness. That's why what we read here says, behold, of the darkness that cover the earth, in a gross darkness of the people, but Yahweh shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be upon thee. Talking about the Israelites. Then we get over here, Isaiah 49 and 6, and he said, it is a light thing that thou shouldst be my servants, and to rise thee up of the tribes of Jacob, and to restore and preserve Israel. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the ends of the earth. So this is how these other nations are going to be taken care of, by serving us and coming to us and learning from us, right? And we went over that, like I said, the other day when we did the lesson. You know, we did that, right? Let's get Luke really quick. chapter 2 and 32. So Luke chapter 2:32 says, a light to the Gentiles and the glory of thy people Israel. So we get that glory like we read in Romans, where it says that we pertain to that glory, right? So we see that this all belongs to us, right? In the end, right? So these people's gonna fight each other. Like I always liken this thing to is the Royal Rumble, where everybody is in the ring, that everybody's fighting everybody, right? So God is gonna use these nations to destroy each other. All we have to do is keep the faith in the commandments, you know, to survive to this day. Then he's going to give us power over the nations, like we read in Revelation 2 and 26, real quick. Let's get that. And it says, and he that overcometh and keep my words to the end, to him I will give power over the nations. Right? So then we see over here it says, and the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and the kings of thy brightness of thy rising. Lift up thy eyes round about and see all they gather themselves together. They come to thee. The sons shall come from far, and the daughters shall be a nurse at thy side. Meaning, all these nations are going to come to us. Then when we read chapter 14 of Isaiah, we see how a lot of them is coming, right? And then it says, and then thou shalt see the flow together, and thy heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be uh, converted unto thee, and the forces of the Gentiles shall come to thee. So not only are we gonna be in control of them, they're gonna have to come and learn from us. They're gonna have to pay what they mfing way, right? Pay what they way, right? So it says the forces of the Gentiles shall be converted unto thee, right? Yes, I'm curious. Let's see how this read in the GMT. Let's see how this read in the GNT. What is that? Let's start at 4. So this is Isaiah 60 in the GNT, verse 4. Look around you and see what is happening. Your people are gathering to come home. Your sons will be far away. Your daughters will be carried like children. Meaning, we're going to come in, you know, we're going to be straight, right? Then it says, and you will see the end, and you will see this will be fulfilled with joy. You'll be uh, tremble with excitement, and the wealth of the nations will be brought to you. Like we see over here, it says, the forces of the Gentiles shall come to thee, meaning, so it says, the wealth of the nations shall be brought to you, meaning they're going to have to pay tribute to us. They're going to have to give us all their monies, to us, right? It says, boom, boom, boom. The wealth of the Gentiles will be given to you from across the sea, their riches will come. A great caravans and camels will come from Midian and Ephah, and they will come from Sheba, bringing gold and incense, and the people will tell the good news of what Yahweh has done. All the sheep of Kedar and uh, 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 Nabaroth will be brought to you as sacrifice and offered on the altars to please Yahweh. And the Lord will make his temple more glorious than ever. Meaning they're gonna fund our whole thing, right? They're gonna do everything, right? Then it says Let's keep reading. Then it says, uh, "What are these ships that skim along the clouds like doves returning home? They are ships coming from distant lands, bringing God's people home." So, ooh, I like this. This is talking about what we would call the UFOs, but these are the angels that's gathering our people from all these different distant lands that they've been scattered to bring them back to our homeland, Israel. Like you read about this in the book of Zechariah, right? So it says, and we know it's talking about that because it says ships that skim along the clouds. And so, and we know what type of aerial vehicles that skim along the clouds. The Bible calls them chariots, right? So it says, like doves returning home, and the ships coming from the distant lands to bring God's people home. They bring them silver and gold and honor the name of Yahweh, the holy God of Israel, who has made all nations honor his people. So all these nations are going to have to honor us, right? Just get this. Just jump up back over here. King James, verse 10. And the sons of the strangers, meaning people that's not Israelites, shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister to thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I have mercy on thee. So God said, okay, I know in the time past I jacked y'all up, you Israelites. I know y'all been through some tough times in America, but I'm gonna pay y'all back double, triple, you know, by having these other nations serve y'all and build everything up for y'all. Because Israel, the landmass that we know as Israel is going to be decimated. So they're going to have to build all that back up for us. And it says, the sons and daughters shall build up thy walls, and the king shall minister unto thee. For the for my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I show mercy. And the gates and thy gates shall be open continuously, and they shall not be shut day nor night, that the men shall bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, that the kings may be brought, right? And that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna have to bring us all their wealth, just like how countries nowadays give those people over there billions and billions of dollars for no reason. They're gonna have to give all that to us, right? And it says, "Behold, I will send many fishers." Okay, well, no, we don't need that. Let's get where were we? Get back to boom, boom. Oh, it was in Revelation. Yeah. So yeah, so I just have to prove all that real quick, right? So where we at with it? Boom, boom, boom. And it says, "In the 10 horns which thou sawest," apostles Revelation, back to Revelation 17 and 16. "In the 10 horns that uh, which thou sawest upon the beast, they shall hate the whore," right? So that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna end up destroying America. So those uh, countries that is with America right now, a lot of them is going to end up turning on America and destroying her and destroying this place, right? Just get that real quick. This is Obadiah 1 and 18 and 1 and 7. I mean, Obadiah 1 and 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to thy border. Meaning all these nations, that NATO, EU, all these people that you cool with, uh, have brought thee unto the border, and the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, and prevail against thee, that they may eat thy bread and lay a wound underneath thee. There is no understanding in them. Meaning, America's not gonna be able to make peace with these people. Once they decide to turn on America, there's not anything that America is gonna be able to do to get them from not pushing the button on them, right? So it says, "In the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So how are they gonna do that? By pushing those buttons with those thermonuclear fire, thermonuclear bombs, right? For the Lord God had put in their hearts to fulfill His will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the works of Yahweh be fulfilled. So God is putting a spirit on these people. That's why, see, when you watch the news and you be looking at the dumb stuff that Biden is doing or any other country, and you be like, why the hell are they doing that? Like what are they thinking? Because He put the spirit on them, like it says, for Yahweh had put in their hearts to fulfill His will and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Yahweh be fulfilled. So until the words of God be fulfilled, everything that God said is going to happen on this earth happens. We're all under that control. It's nothing that we can do or not do that's going to change what God said is going to happen, right? So let's get because we almost done here. Let's get 7 and 23. Daniel 7 and 23. Matter of fact, hold on, do I want that one? Let's get. Matter of fact, let's get. I think we're going to end on this one right here. Second Ezra 12 and 11. And it says, "And the eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea, and the kingdoms which was seen in the vision of the brother Daniel, but it was not expound unto him. Therefore, now I declare it unto thee." Right. So, like I said, so we know that America's symbol is the eagle, right? And so, with the angel is explaining to our dear brother Ezra was that the same vision that Daniel saw is what Ezra is seeing, but Daniel got a little glimpse, a little piece of the prophecy, but it wasn't fully, you know, explained or clear to him, right? And then, but it says, but Ezra is seeing the same beast, right? So, and Ezra is getting an explanation, and it says, "Behold, the days will come that there shall rise up a kingdom upon the earth, and it shall be feared above all kingdoms that were before it." And that's what America is. People don't want no smoke with America, right? But like we read, like the first verse we read, like the first, passage we read, it says, "Let the weak say that I am strong." But they know if they come together, just like how, you know, they came together later to take down Debo. If they come together, they know that they can handle America. That is, that's, long as they fighting together. But then at the same time, right now, this is why some of the countries kind of hesitant. But then, like I said earlier, this is why you have Iran talking spicy to America. You have China telling America stay out their business. You got Russia telling America, like, dude, if you keep playing with me, instead of me fighting Ukraine, I'm gonna come and fight you, right? So a lot of these countries is seeing what's going on. So, like I said, so it says, "Behold, the days come; there shall rise up a kingdom upon earth, and it shall be feared above all kingdoms that was before it. In this, in the same, shall the 12 kings reign one after another." Right. So yeah, so it's talking about, like I said, so it's getting into these, you know, the empires of America, Rome, and all that stuff, right? So, like I said, we see what's going on here. So, like I said, we're not gonna be able to get into every little thing, that I plan on to. But like I said, we can probably pick this up tomorrow. But so as you can see, that America has a judgment coming, and he's using these other nations and their troubles and their turmoil to, you know, exact these judgments that's is coming upon the earth, right? So then we see the end result that all these nations, after a while, is gonna have to bow down and to the Mashiach Yahushua, and they're gonna have to serve the Israelites, and they're gonna have to come and learn from us, because we're gonna have that light, we're gonna have that wisdom and understanding. So, and we see that, right? How it's all being played out. So God is playing toy soldier with these nations. He's making everybody fight against everybody. All for the benefit of us. So, that's what we have to, you know, understand when we see these things happening. That this is synonymous with our liberation as a people. Because we always want to talk about how we gonna be liberated. What's gonna fix the black man? What's gonna fix black people? This is what's gonna fix black people. Keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and keeping the faith. Then just sitting back and watching all this stuff unfold and see how it all is going to play in part for our benefit at the end, right? Because the whole world was promised to us, right? Let's get that really, really quick before we get up out of here. Like I said, I mean, I don't just say things. I want to be able to prove what I'm saying to y'all. So let's start at Second Ezra chapter 6. Let's start at 54, and after these, Adam, whom thou made Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people who thou chosen, right? So we all essentially come from Adam because we all came from that line of Shem through Noah and his three sons after the flood, right? So it's not that, because again we already established that, in previous lessons, that Adam and Eve was not the only two people on the planet. That Adam and Eve had parents. It was God created a multitude of people when He created people, right? It wasn't just two people. So this is just speaking about after the flood, and through that line of Shem, which came Noah and his three sons and all that stuff. How the world was repopulated that way, right? So so it says, of him come we all, and the people whom thou hast chosen. So who has he chosen? The Israelites. All this I have spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou made the world for our sakes. So when I said that he made this whole thing for us, I'm not just saying it because it sounds cool. The Bible says that thou have made the world for our sakes. And as for the other people who also come out of Adam, because all these other nations is, essentially tied to Adam some type of way too. It says, all these other people which also come from Adam, thou hast said they are nothing but be like spittle, and hast likened the abundance of them into that drops that falleth from a bucket, falleth from a vessel, right? So that's how God feel about these other nations. He say that they are nothing, right? And He made the whole world for our sakes. So we have to eternalize that and understand that. Yeah, God created this whole big world and created all these people, but He only created it for us, right? For us to be the rulership. That's why we read in Isaiah 60 that He's going to give the light to us. He's going to give us the wisdom and understanding. That's why we read in Luke, even in the New Testament, Luke 2 and 32, I believe, that we're going to be a light to the Gentiles, right? Because He's only dealing with us. Just like in a pre-flood, He was dealing with the Adamites, right? So it wasn't just Adam and Eve. I mean, Adam was like the leader, but it was the Adamites, the people He was dealing with. Those the people He chose to give the knowledge and wisdom to during that time to teach the people. But then they start following other customs and other religions and other beliefs practices that caused the downfall, and then, like I said, so the same thing with the Israelites on this side of the flood. He's dealing with the Israelites. So that we have to understand that. So He's only dealing with us. So all of the stuff that we see is for the benefit of us. Yes, it's sad, it's jacked up. Some people over there killing babies, doing all this type of crazy stuff. but and they're gonna get their judgment for what they're doing. But in the meantime, in between time, like I said, it's all for us. All for the liberation of God's people, the Israelites, right? So this is what it's all about, right? Not those people over there with the little stuff hanging from the side and the little saucer sitting on top of their head. Those are not God's people. Those are the children of the devil, right? Those are those people, right? So, like I said, so I'm gonna say shalom because I'm hungry. Gotta find me something to eat. You know, Probably have some curry chicken. That's what I'm on right now. That's what I'm feeling. Some curry chicken, right? And that's what we're gonna do. Say shalom and peace. I'm out.